Welcome to Hack Your Happiness.
You're bad at it when you start, and so you don't want to look stupid, or it's too new and too scary. But I think if you can get past that and you really just continue to explore, don't be afraid to try anything.
Are you a teen or adult looking for more happiness in every day and ways to connect with people in your life?
You've come to the right place. Hack Your Happiness is a podcast designed to bring you the behind the scenes of what brings iconic individuals happiness, plus their life hacks.
I'm Mercedes.
And I'm Anastasia.
And we're the two teens behind Small Bits of Happiness.
We're interviewing Olympic athletes, entrepreneurs, celebrities, and more.
Throughout all of our episodes, you'll find great conversations, hacks that you can take away and try in your life, inspiration, as well as unique and surprising insights. Joining us today, we have S.G. Prince. S.G. is the author of multiple books, including the Elvish Trilogy, the Heirs of Isla series, and short story, The Rivers of Reversal.
S.G. Prince is a very successful author and extremely inspiring as she follows her passion for creating fascinating characters and worlds. Welcome, S.G.
Hey, Mercedes, Anastasia, nice to be here.
Nice to meet you. We're so happy to have you. So you're currently an author with multiple published books and another one on the way. So take us back to the beginning. How did your passion for writing start?
Yeah, so I have always been a writer. I wrote my first story when I was probably 7 years old. I think my mom still has it somewhere. It was called Sugar and Spice. It was about two puppies who were friends and their adventures. I knew very early on that I wanted to be an author, but I sort of, I went to college and I sort of still had it in the back of my head that I wanted to write, but I wasn't really focused on it. And then after college, I graduated and I sort of was looking at my life and I thought, wait, I still have this dream. I'm going to start taking it seriously now. And so in 2016, 17-ish is when I started writing Elvish. I had written several books before Elvish, but that was the first time that I was really I'm taking this seriously. I'm taking it seriously as a career, and I'm going to get this book published. And then everything just went from there pretty much.
That's amazing. What did you study in college?
I actually have a degree in economics. So completely unrelated to anything. It just was sort of the practical choice at the time. And I had an interest in economics, but I even knew when I was getting that degree that I wasn't going to be doing anything with it.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. So before becoming a full-time author, you had a different job. How did you take the leap from having your regular job to becoming a full-time author? And what would your hack be to others for taking that leap?
Yeah. So right out of college, I actually did get a job working at a magazine. And then after that, for 6 years, the longest job that I had was I was a marketing director at a law firm. And I had always sort of had the idea that at some point I would like to quit my full-time job and go full-time author. But of course, financially, you have to be careful. And it took me a while to get there. It was when my husband got a new job, so we were leaving Texas, which is where I was living at the time. I'm not from there originally, but we were leaving Texas, and we sort of had this conversation about, okay, I think I had already published 2 books. I had my third on the way, and we just sort of said, okay, I think this might be a good time to take the leap. I had to quit my job anyway, and instead of getting a new job in Seattle, which is where we moved, this was sort of my opportunity to do the book thing full time. I did keep at the time some freelance writing jobs on the side just for that extra security, because especially when you are doing something creative, it's a big leap and it's scary and you want that, something to fall back on. My advice to anyone who is thinking about quitting their full-time job, pursuing their passions, it's extremely rewarding. It is one of those things that this is going to sound discouraging. It becomes a job. You have to understand that your passion, books, is also my job now. But it can be done. And I think doing it the way that I did it, which is I did step away, I was no longer in an office full time, but I did have something else on the side to help support the income as I continued publishing more books. That was helpful too. The last thing that I'll say about this is it doesn't have to be 100% all or nothing. You might try, you might quit your job and go after your passion and then realize it's not working, and then to have to come back and get another job, like that's not failure in my opinion. I think that you can go ahead and try and take the leap and test and see what works, and just like it's okay to just explore the option. Yeah,
I absolutely love that. And I think that's such
Yeah.
a good hack of like, you know, having something in between to kind of help support you and make you feel more, I guess, comfortable
Yeah.
taking that leap, like having some freelance writing on the side or anything else that applies to whatever someone's doing. I think that's so true, and it is a risk, and I mean, definitely it's going to change kind of the dynamic that you have with your passion, which is like
Yeah.
writing, because it becomes your job, but
100%.
yeah.
it's still worth it because I mean, if you're doing something that you love, it's just so rewarding.
Yeah.
Throughout your journey, what has been the most significant challenge?
Oh, the most significant challenge. I think probably going back to what we were just saying about when you take something that is your passion and you make it your job, holding on to the passion part, because it's really easy, and something that I would say that I struggled with, but I think that I've now improved at, is worrying too much about the finished result and how it's going to be perceived. So now, when I was unpublished, when I was just writing books, because I had written 2 books before Elvish, and then I wrote Elvish, and I was unpublished. Like, no one even knew I was writing books. No one was waiting on anything I had worked on. These were just, it was a passion project. That is very different than sort of where I am now, where I have published some books and I've got more coming out. And now you're just sort of always aware in the background that this is a creative thing that you're doing, but people are going to be reading it and people care. And so in the back of my head when I'm writing, it's hard to separate okay, this is the book that I want to write and that I love and my passion, and like, this is what I imagine, versus what are my readers going to think, or what is a publisher going to think about this. And so this is at least one of the biggest challenges for me, is really disconnecting and turning off that extra noise of like worrying about how well it's going to do, and just truly being creative, getting into the book and writing with passion. Yeah,
I love that. And
That's amazing.
just like we were talking about in the previous question, like keeping that passion for anything is so important. I think that that's what
Yeah.
makes you like successful, is like if you genuinely love what you're working at and you're motivated because you like it so much.
And making sure that you're not writing or doing your passion for other people, because I think in the end you're supposed to be doing it for yourself, not for the people that you're writing for or you're creating content for.
absolutely. And I think readers can tell. And I think that's the important part too, is I have found that when I write a book and it's truly from the heart, I hear that, and I hear it in people who reach out to me then after, and I feel like you can tell, and then I can tell too if I'm reading back something that I wrote because I had to. It doesn't sound the same as something I wrote because I was inspired.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think people can tell when it's written with passion, when it's written from the heart, or when something is done genuinely because somebody loves it. It's also going to be, most of the time, I think, better quality, better in general, because you enjoyed the process. And
Yeah,
really kind of
100%.
pour your heart into it.
Yeah. So what do you usually do to overcome this when you feel like it's coming up?
Yeah, so my first rule is I do not read reviews at all for any of my books. I read the first 100 Amazon reviews for Elvish, which was my debut series, like my debut book. And then after that, I've published 4 books now, and I have not read a single review for any of them, good or bad. Like, I do not want to know. And that's the other thing. So like the bad reviews, obviously, like you don't want to read bad reviews for obvious reasons, but even the good reviews, like if people, even if they like the book, that still gets in your head, because often someone might say something, oh, I hope this happens in the next book. Oh, what if? And they'll start in the reviews like snowballing ideas, and then those ideas get in your head and you're like, well, should I do this? Like, so that is something that I'm very careful about, is I don't read reviews at all. And then the second piece would just be that I really try to block out time where I am offline. And I keep bringing up the internet with reviews and being online is because that's sort of where a lot of the noise comes from that could be distracting or could be like, oh, you're looking at the numbers or you're worrying about what people think. So I turn it all off. And I really dedicate, especially when I'm drafting a book, I'm dedicating time where I'm not online. I'm not obviously reading reviews. I'm not consuming any outside, feedback, and I'm just working.
Yeah, I think that's such a good hack, is just like focus on yourself, and that will get you to where you're meant to go. And sometimes you have to kind of block out the outside noise because everyone has an opinion on something, but not necessarily. We don't need to always listen. So I think that's a great hack. As you've followed your passion and become a successful author, what has been the most rewarding part of the journey?
The first most rewarding part was holding my first book in my hands. That is something that like when you have a dream, that's what you want. You sort of imagine this moment where all this hard work and then you finally get to like touch your finished product. So that springs to mind as one of the most rewarding parts. And the second most rewarding part, I would say, is like seeing myself improve. From my debut to where I am now, it's been really rewarding to have put in all this time and then to feel like it's paying off.
Yeah, and I think especially like when you love to do something from a young age, like 7 years old, seeing that like come to like physical, I don't know, manifestation, like seeing it like in real life is like, wow, like my younger self would be so proud of me right now. And I think that there's definitely something to that that's so rewarding.
And it feels like you just kind of poured your heart into this and you finally have a final product, and it's like other people will finally be able to read this and appreciate this. And I think that's
the constant growth that you talked about too is so like, I think especially like even as a teenager, I'm like, as I see myself go throughout a school year or go throughout I don't know, essay writing or anything like that, like just seeing improvement is so rewarding because it's like I've been working on this and this is me, like I've done this. So I think that's so rewarding.
So a lot of teenagers struggle with pursuing their interests because they're afraid of what other peers will think. Did you ever worry about this, and what helped you overcome this worry?
Ooh, did I ever worry? I don't think that I ever really worried what other people would think. I mean, there's not, luckily, I don't think so. I would say that I did choose economics as a college degree, possibly because not necessarily I worried what other people would think, but I worried whether or not I was making the right choice, rather than getting my degree in creative writing, for example, or English or something. But as far as writing books, I don't know. I love it so much that it almost doesn't matter to me if someone cared, which no one ever has. So that has not really been an issue for me. However, for anyone who is worried about what someone else might think about their passion, I think some of it really just comes with time. I'm not going to say, I mean, obviously it's easy to say just like, don't worry what other people think, but is that realistic? I don't know. What I would really say is just maybe take it in little pieces over time. And as you continue to pursue your passion and as you improve at your passion, I think you'll start to see that it gets easier, and maybe you really won't care as much what other people think. And maybe especially as you continue to improve and you get better, people A will get used to the fact that this is your thing and this is what you do, and B, you'll be able to feel proud because you've come this way and you've seen the improvement. And people recognize that.
And I think that what you said about the college degree is like, I think as teenagers, especially my age, like once you're in high school, it's like what I do in college is going to define me for the rest of my life. But it's like, no, if you a few years down the road decide, I'm not that interested in this, I want to try something new, something else, something different, that's totally okay. And you can still be successful and good at it. And I think that that's such an important thing to keep in mind when you're deciding what you want to do in college or if you want to go to college. And I think that it's really inspiring to see how, it doesn't define you as much as we think it does. And just following your passion will get you to where you need to go. And what are your hacks and tips for teens and individuals of all ages to find their passion?
Ooh, I think a lot of it has to do with just exploration. Don't be afraid of trying new things. And I know sometimes some people are really adventurous and love trying new things, and that's fun for them, and so it's easy. But I know even for myself, trying new things can sometimes be scary because you're bad at it when you start, and so you don't want to look stupid, or it's too new and too scary. But I think if you can get past that and you really just like continue to explore, like don't be afraid to try anything, that's a really good way to sort of see what you're interested in and find your passion.
I think that what I like to think about is like signing up for different activities or school extracurriculars or anything like that. Like maybe join a sport or do a part of the production that's like in theaters at school, or maybe join a book club, anything like that. And then just see like what sticks and what you enjoy. Because I think often we don't even know what we enjoy. We're like, oh, I guess everyone's playing soccer, I'll join soccer. And if you're not interested, it's like, well then, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I think that also probably a big thing is like just the fear of not being good at it. Because especially if you're used to doing things that you're good at, you're used to doing things that you're comfortable with, but as soon as you start getting out of your comfort zone, you start getting faced with things that you aren't good at, and you start getting failure and stuff, and that can be scary to people who aren't used to failing. But I think that failure is such an amazing thing to kind of get used to. And
you can't really grow without first failing or just struggling, or that's the only really way to
I think
grow.
that by trying new things, you find out what you like and what you don't like, and you also learn the most important lesson, which is learn how to fail.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So sometimes as teens, we know what we're passionate about, but we have a hard time following it. Maybe it's because we're worried about what others will think, or we're afraid of failing, or both. Have you ever felt this way? And what is your advice to teens to push through it?
Oh, sure. I mean, the scariest thing in the world is releasing a book. The scariest thing, because you've just spent a year or more pouring your heart into something, and like it could suck. It might suck. Like, I don't know. I have no idea, because until it's published, you only have a few people that have read it. So I think that the fear of failure is realistic. It's normal. Everyone has it, and it's okay. And you just can't let it stop you, right? Like it's also, I think, really easy to look at other people who have had success and assume that they didn't go through that either. And I don't think that's true. Everyone is afraid of failing. And even people who are already successful are still afraid of failing. But you just have to keep going. You have to keep doing what you're doing, pursuing your passion, be okay with failing. Because it's like you said, failure is just part of it, and it's okay. And, if you don't try, you won't ever have the chance to succeed.
Exactly.
Yeah, most definitely.
And I think that, again, like you said, and like we said in the previous question, like if you don't try, you'll never know. Like, you'll never know. And the worst thing that's going to happen is you'll fail, but there's nothing saying you can't try again. You can't change something that you're doing and do it a little different, take a different approach to it. And I think that once you realize that, everybody has failed at some point in their life, and everybody is going to, like, no matter what you do, you'll probably struggle with something, but you may as well do what you love and grow through that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what do you do every day that brings you a small bit of happiness?
Ooh, this is really small, but I'm very excited about this right now because every autumn, fall scented candles come back into season, and especially the evergreen ones. I have waited all year for an evergreen scented candle, and I just found one.
Oh, yay.
I light a candle before I work, before I sit down to write every day, and the evergreen ones are my favorite, and I stock up every year because then they go out of stock come like January. So that's what I do every day that brings me a little bit of happiness.
Love that.
Amazing.
I think, well, there's like a whole science to like how scents bring us joy and bring us happiness, and like I totally think that those seasonal scents
bring most definitely
me so much happiness. And then there's also like that nostalgia that's like, oh, this reminds me of last fall, and I was so happy last fall, and I'm gonna be happy this fall because I have my candle. Yeah. I think that that's definitely a very big small bit of happiness.
Totally. So what is one motivational quote that you love and remember, and why?
My favorite quote that I actually discovered when I was in high school, and that I've stuck with for a long time is never give up on a dream just because of the time it will take to accomplish it. That time will pass anyway. I love that. I think it's especially applicable to me writing books because books take forever, but I think it can be applied to any dream. It's just, especially something that's going to take a lot of time, something that you have to learn. It can be daunting, starting something new, especially if it's going to take a long time, but it should never be the reason that someone doesn't do something because that time will pass anyway.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And it's do I want to spend my time doing something that I don't really enjoy that much, or do I want to spend my time doing something that I really do like? Because either way, you're gonna have to do something with your time, and fail at something and grow at something. Do you have anything exciting coming up with us? Maybe goals, projects, events, anything like that?
Well, I am right now. I just finished my first round of revisions for my first young adult novel. So I turned that into my agent actually 2 days ago, which is sort of the most exciting thing that I've got going on. So I can't make any big announcements about it yet, no titles or anything yet, but that is what I have in the works. So yeah, and then aside from that, the other thing that I don't have a release date yet, but To Poison a King, my standalone fantasy novel that came out last April. The audiobook is in post-production, and so that will be releasing hopefully sometime soon. So yeah, those are kind of the two big things that I've got going on right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love audiobooks.
Same.
So that's very exciting. So your tips have been so helpful and inspiring today. Is there anywhere that our listeners could go if they want to find more? Anywhere you want to direct our listeners?
I'd say probably the best place is to find me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active. My Instagram is at sgprince.books. And so if they want to learn more about my books or anything that I'm up to, that's where I am.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, we also have our bits post that I know you did through writing, some more tips and advice on there. So that will also be linked along with your Instagram account in the show notes if anybody wants to head over there to keep up with you and see what you're up to with your releases.
Thank you both.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness.
SG is such an inspiring author, and I love her journey of going from college and economics to working at a magazine to working as marketing at a law firm and then following her passion. And I think it just shows that it's okay, life is a journey, and it's okay to change what we're doing along the way. And even as teenagers, it's totally okay to change up what we're doing. Maybe you want to do sports during the winter and then you're like, I want to try production now and join the play or do makeup and hair. It's okay to not know exactly what you're passionate about, and it's okay to try different things, and most of all, it's okay to fail. Or it's okay to be worried about failing because, like we discussed with SG in this podcast episode, no matter what, you're going to fail. No matter what, this time is going to pass, and it's up to you whether you want to be doing something that you're interested about, learning more about yourself, or whether you want to just be doing what everyone else is doing, even if it's not your passion.
One of the biggest takeaways that I have is just seeing that no matter who you are, no matter how many successes you've had, you have this fear of failure. You have this fear of people not liking your work or not liking what you're doing. And so just finding a way to kind of tune out all of those voices, tune out all the noise, and focus on what you love doing without all this extra opinions and things that you don't need.
Also, I think it's always important to remember that thoughts are not facts, and this applies to not only our own thoughts, but other people's thoughts too. Just because somebody has an opinion doesn't make it true. Just because somebody thinks, oh, it's kind of weird that they're doing that or that they are not doing that, that doesn't make it true. It doesn't make it true that it's weird because it's honestly not weird. Everyone has different interests and everyone has every right to follow their own passion and see where it takes them. And maybe it's your passion that you want to do as a full-time job eventually, or maybe it's just something that you're enjoying for them right now. And like SG said, it's very important to kind of balance your life and realize that when you're doing something that's your passion, make sure you keep it your passion. Don't let just because you're doing something like as an extracurricular or as a job, just because you're doing it then, don't let it take over and become a job. And I think one of the best ways to keep your passion a passion is by taking breaks. Because if you push yourself so hard when you don't want to do it, it just becomes a job. Like, I mean, when you don't want to do your math homework, you still have to do it because it's not your, I mean, at least for me, it's not my passion, but some people really, really enjoy doing their math and they want to do it. It's the same thing with your passion. If you really, really want to do something, you should do it. But as soon as you're like, I'm tired, I want to take a break, take that break. That's how you keep your passion a passion, because taking breaks is totally fine. It's okay. Just like we talked about with Megan Oldham in one of our previous episodes, downtime is key and taking breaks is vital. And if you keep pushing yourself, it stops being a passion and it starts becoming a chore. If you want to find more of SG, you can check out our Bits post with her where she shares more advice on finding as well as following your passion, and that'll be linked in the show notes. As well, you can check her out on Instagram at sgprince.books. That is sgprince.books, BOOKS. So go check her out there for more content, and as well, that will be linked in the show notes.
If you enjoyed today's episode, consider leaving us a 5-star review so we can continue bringing you this amazing content. Also, make sure to follow our podcast so you don't miss our next iconic interview.
Bye!